You know what you've been feeling, don't you? That strange combination of disbelief and deep knowing. That push and pull between, this can't be real, and, this is absolutely real. You've been watching someone younger than you show up in ways that people your own age never have. And it's not puppy love. It's not infatuation. It's not some temporary fascination that'll fade when reality sets in. What you're witnessing is someone who has looked at your life, your history, your complexity, your scars, your wisdom, your weariness, your beauty, all of it, and decided that you're not just someone they want. You're someone they're choosing. Intentionally. Seriously. With a clarity that honestly might be unnerving you a little bit. Because let's be honest, you had your doubts. Maybe you still do. When they first expressed interest, part of you thought, they'll grow out of this. You figured the age difference would eventually matter to them the way it mattered to you in the beginning. You expected them to wake up one day and realize they wanted someone who was in the same life stage, someone they wouldn't have to explain to friends and family, someone less complicated. But that day never came, did it? Instead, what you're seeing is the opposite. You're watching this person become more certain, not less. More committed, not more casual. More serious about a future that includes you, not despite the years between you, but almost as if those years don't even register on their internal compass. If this is resonating with something deep in your chest right now, leave a heart emoji in the comments. Because what I'm about to walk you through in this message is the truth about what's actually happening here, and why your hesitation to believe it might be the only thing standing between you and the most mature love you've ever experienced. The first super thanks of this video supported the previous message about divine timing, and I'm so grateful. If you're someone who values these longer, deeper conversations about the real movements happening in your love life, the super thanks button below helps me continue creating this space for us. No pressure, just genuine appreciation for those who feel called to support. Here's what I need you to understand right from the start: this isn't about age gap relationships in some general, advice column kind of way. This is about you, specifically. The person watching this right now who has been second-guessing something that everyone else around you can see clearly. Your friends see how they look at you. Your family sees how they talk about you. Even strangers can sense the intentionality in how they move toward you. But you? You're still waiting for the other shoe to drop. You're still bracing yourself for the moment they come to their senses. You're still protecting yourself from fully believing that someone could see everything you are, including the years you've lived, the experiences you carry, the ways life has shaped you, and say, yes. You. I choose you. For real. For keeps. I'm going to tell you something that might sound too simple to be true, but stay with me. The reason you're struggling to believe this is real has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with what you've been taught about your own desirability, your own value, and what you're allowed to receive at this point in your life. You've internalized some story about being too old for this kind of devotion. About being past the point where someone looks at you and sees forever. About the age difference being an obstacle that any reasonable person would eventually recognize and walk away from. But here's what your doubt is missing: this person isn't operating from the same rulebook you are. They're not measuring your worth by how many years you've been alive or how you compare to people their own age. They're measuring it by who you are. How you make them feel. The depth of connection they've found with you. The way you understand them. The life they can envision building with you. And that life? It includes marriage. Commitment. The whole thing. Not someday. Not in some vague, let's see where this goes, way. They're thinking about it now. Planning for it. Getting ready to make it real. Type, I'm listening, if you're ready to stop doubting what's right in front of you. Because over the next 50 minutes, we're going to dismantle every reason you've given yourself for why this can't be what it looks like. And we're going to replace those stories with the truth about what's actually unfolding. Let me paint the picture of what's been happening, because I don't think you're fully seeing it yet. They're not treating this like a fling. They're not moving through this relationship with the casualness of someone who's just seeing where things go. When they talk about the future, and they do talk about the future, you're in it. Not as a maybe. Not as a possibility they're considering. As a certainty they're building toward. Maybe you've noticed how they talk to their friends about you. There's no hedging. No, we're just hanging out, or, it's complicated. They introduce you with a confidence that doesn't match what you think they should be feeling about someone outside their age range. They say your name like it means something. Like you're already more than what the relationship status technically says you are. Or maybe you've caught them researching things that matter to you. Not because they're trying to impress you, but because they're trying to understand the life they're entering. If you've mentioned financial planning, they're suddenly asking questions about investments. If you've talked about wanting to travel, they're looking at their career trajectory and figuring out how to make that possible for both of you. If family is important to you, they're thinking about how to win your people over, not eventually, but now. This is someone who's doing the internal work of becoming your partner before you've even fully accepted that they're serious. And the thing that's probably messing with your head the most? They're patient with your doubt. They're not offended by your hesitation. They're not pressured by your very reasonable questions about whether this makes sense. Because they've already worked through those questions themselves. They've already counted the cost. They've already looked at the age difference from every angle, the practical implications, the social perceptions, the potential challenges, and decided it doesn't matter more than you do. While you've been protecting yourself, they've been preparing themselves. While you've been listing all the reasons this shouldn't work, they've been building solutions to every obstacle you could name. While you've been waiting for them to change their mind, they've been strengthening their resolve. You might have watched them navigate a moment where someone made a comment about the age gap. Maybe a friend raised an eyebrow. Maybe a family member asked a pointed question. And you held your breath, waiting to see if that external pressure would crack their certainty. But it didn't, did it? Instead, you watched them hold their ground. Not defensively. Not with the insecurity of someone who's trying to convince themselves as much as others. But with the calm clarity of someone who knows what they want and isn't interested in being talked out of it. They might have even surprised you with how articulate they were about why you. Not why the relationship works despite the age difference, but why you specifically are the person they're choosing. They didn't generalize. They didn't make it about attraction or chemistry or some vague sense of connection. They spoke about your character. Your wisdom. The way you navigate life. The peace you bring. The future they can actually see with you that they couldn't see with anyone else. And after that conversation, they came back to you even more grounded. More certain. Like having to defend their choice only made them more aware of how right it is. This is not the behavior of someone who's confused. This is not the pattern of someone who's going through a phase. What's one word that describes how this makes you feel? Drop it in the comments. Let's talk about the practical things you've probably noticed but haven't wanted to read too much into. They remember details about your life that people your own age have forgotten to care about. They ask about the project you mentioned 3 weeks ago. They remember the name of your friend who was going through something. They check in about your goals, your health, your dreams, not because they're trying to score points, but because they genuinely hold space for all of who you are. When you talk about your past, relationships that didn't work, lessons you learned the hard way, the ways you've grown and changed, they don't get intimidated. They listen like they're taking notes on how to love you better. Your history isn't baggage to them. It's context. It's the journey that made you who they fell for. They've probably asked you questions about what you want in the next chapter of your life. Not shallow questions. Deep ones. About what kind of home you want to create. What values you want to build a life around. What legacy you want to leave. And when you answer, they're not just humoring you, they're aligning themselves with that vision. In quiet moments, maybe during a regular evening or while you're doing something mundane together, you've caught them looking at you with this expression you can't quite name. It's not the look of someone who's infatuated. It's the look of someone who's found what they were searching for and can't quite believe their luck. It's a look that says, "You're it. You're the one." And it probably terrifies you a little. Because believing it means you have to stop hiding behind your doubts. Believing it means you have to receive this level of intentionality, this depth of commitment, this serious, marriage-minded love, from someone who society says shouldn't be this sure about someone like you. But they are sure. This is where everything changes. Stay with me. The universe, God, whatever you believe is orchestrating your life, it hasn't made a mistake here. The age difference isn't an accident you both have to overcome. It's not an obstacle that makes this love less valid. It's just a fact. A detail. One of many details that make up the unique configuration of who you two are together. And this person? They're not trying to convince you anymore. They're ready to commit. They're ready to build. They're ready to make you their spouse, not in some distant, theoretical future, but in the tangible, plannable, let's actually do this present. The only question left is whether you're ready to stop running from what's running toward you. I want to go deeper into what's actually happening beneath the surface here, because there are layers to this situation that you need to understand if you're going to move forward without sabotaging what's being offered to you. First, let's talk about what they're experiencing internally, because it's probably very different from what you imagine. You might think they're naive. That they don't fully grasp what they're signing up for. That the age difference will hit them later when reality sets in, when the novelty wears off, when they're faced with the actual implications of choosing someone who's lived more life than they have. But here's what you're missing: they've thought about this more than you have. They've considered the timeline. They know that your life stages don't match perfectly. They've thought about what it means to be building a career while you might be thinking about winding down. They've considered how your friends and their friends might not overlap easily. They've thought about family gatherings where the age gap is obvious. They've even thought about the distant future, about aging, about health, about all the things that people love to bring up when they're trying to poke holes in relationships like yours. And after thinking about all of it, weighing all of it, sitting with all of it, they still want you. They still choose you. They're still moving toward marriage with you. That's not naivety. That's decision. That's maturity operating at a level that has nothing to do with how many years they've been alive and everything to do with how clearly they see what matters. There's something you need to understand about people who know what they want: they don't waste time trying to make wrong things work. They don't force connections that aren't there. They don't stay in situations that don't align with their vision just because it's convenient or comfortable or socially acceptable. This person has probably walked away from relationships that looked perfect on paper. They've probably disappointed people their own age who thought they'd be a good match. They've probably confused their friends by turning down opportunities that seemed like obvious yes. And then they met you. And everything that felt unclear before became clear. Everything that felt forced with other people felt effortless with you. The connection they were told they should want with people their own age paled in comparison to what they found with you. You're not a deviation from their plan. You are the plan. You're the person all those other almosts were preparing them to recognize and commit to fully. Now let's talk about what you're carrying that's making it hard to receive this. There's a specific kind of grief that comes with getting older in a youth-obsessed culture. Even if you've aged well, even if you feel vibrant and alive, there's still this ambient message that your desirability has an expiration date. That the kind of passionate, devoted, I want to build a life with you love is something that happens to people in their 20s and early 30s, and if you missed that window, you should adjust your expectations. You've absorbed that message even if you've tried to reject it. It's in the way you hesitate to believe someone could want you this much. It's in the way you keep waiting for them to realize they could have someone younger, someone with fewer miles, someone who hasn't already lived a whole life before meeting them. But here's the truth that's going to set you free: you are not less valuable because you've lived more. You are not less desirable because you carry experience. You are not less worthy of devoted love because you've already been through things. In fact, it's precisely because you've lived, learned, grown, healed, and become who you are now that you're capable of receiving and reciprocating the kind of mature love this person is offering. They're not choosing you despite your age. They're choosing you, and your age is just part of the whole package of who you are. The wisdom, the groundedness, the emotional intelligence, the clarity about what matters, the way you move through the world with less need to prove yourself, all of that comes with having lived. And all of that is deeply attractive to someone who's emotionally mature enough to value it. If you're finally starting to believe you might actually be worthy of this, drop a comment saying, "I'm worthy." You need to hear yourself say it. Let me tell you what they see when they look at you, because I don't think anyone's told you this in a way that you could actually receive it. They see someone who knows themselves. You're not still figuring out your values or your boundaries or what you want from life. You've done that work. You've lived enough to know what's negotiable and what isn't. You've been through enough to understand what real love requires and what it doesn't. That's attractive. That's solid ground to build on. That's the difference between constructing a life with someone who's still becoming and partnering with someone who already is. They see someone who doesn't need them to complete you. You had a life before them. You have interests, friendships, routines, dreams that exist independently of this relationship. You're not looking for them to fill a void or fix something broken. You're inviting them into an already whole life, and there's something incredibly secure-making about that. They see someone who communicates directly. You've lived enough to know that games don't work, that hints get missed, that passive-aggressive hoping is a waste of everyone's time. When something bothers you, you say it. When you need something, you ask. When you're happy, you express it. This level of emotional clarity is rare, and it makes them feel safe in ways relationships with people their own age haven't. They see someone who's already walked through fire and come out intact. You're not untested. You're not fragile. You've survived heartbreak, disappointment, loss, failure, all the things that break people who haven't developed resilience. And that resilience? It makes you someone they can trust to weather the inevitable storms that every long-term relationship faces. They see a partner, not a project. They see someone they can build with, not someone they need to build up first. They see someone who will challenge them to grow while also providing a stability they've never experienced before. And they want that. They want you. For life. As their spouse. Their chosen family. Their person. The question that's probably still nagging at you is, but what about later? What about when the differences start to matter more? What about when I'm aging faster? What about when our energy levels don't match? What about all the practical realities that everyone loves to bring up? Here's what I need you to understand: every relationship has a what about later. Every partnership requires navigation. Every marriage asks both people to adapt, compromise, and choose each other through changing seasons. The age gap doesn't doom you to more problems than any other couple faces. It just means you'll face different problems. And different doesn't mean worse. It doesn't mean insurmountable. It just means you'll need to be intentional about communication, about understanding each other's perspectives, about building a life that honors both of your needs. But here's the beautiful thing: they're already showing you they're capable of that intentionality. They're already demonstrating the maturity required to navigate complexity. They're already proving that they don't need everything to be easy or simple or conventional, they just need it to be real, and rooted in genuine love and commitment. You've been protecting yourself from disappointment for so long that you've almost protected yourself out of receiving what you've actually been asking for. You wanted someone who was serious. Someone who didn't play games. Someone who knew what they wanted and wasn't afraid to pursue it. Someone who saw your value and treated you accordingly. And now that person is here. Standing in front of you. Ready to make you their spouse. And the only thing standing in the way is your disbelief that someone could want you this much, this seriously, this permanently, even though they're younger than you. This is crucial. What I'm about to share will shift everything. Keep watching. The second super thanks mention: if this message is touching something deep in your soul, the super thanks button is a beautiful way to say, "This matters to me," and help me continue these heart-to-heart conversations. Totally optional, but deeply appreciated. There's a specific kind of spiritual rebellion happening in your love story, and I need you to see it for what it is. The world has rules about who's supposed to love whom, and when, and why, and for how long. There are scripts we're all supposed to follow: meet someone age-appropriate, fall in love on a predictable timeline, get married before certain milestones, build a life that makes sense to everyone looking from the outside. But your story is disrupting that script. And disruption always makes people uncomfortable, including, sometimes, the people living inside the disruption. What's happening between you and this younger person isn't just a relationship. It's a challenge to every limiting belief you've ever held about your worthiness, your desirability, and what you're allowed to have at this stage of your life. And here's the thing about limiting beliefs: they don't go quietly. They fight back. They whisper doubts. They manufacture reasons why something good can't possibly be real. They protect you from disappointment by keeping you from believing in the first place. But protection and isolation start to look the same after a while. You've been so focused on not getting hurt that you haven't noticed you're hurting yourself by refusing to receive what's being offered. You've been so afraid of this person eventually leaving that you haven't let yourself fully arrive in the relationship. You've been so worried about the age difference becoming a problem that you've made it a problem by treating it like a bomb that's waiting to go off. Meanwhile, they're over here defusing it simply by not treating it like a bomb at all. They're living in a reality where the age gap is just information, not a barrier. Where your history is context, not baggage. Where the difference is between you are texture, not incompatibility. And they're inviting you to join them in that reality. To stop armoring yourself. To stop managing their perception of you. To stop waiting for the moment they see you clearly and decide you're not enough. Because they already see you clearly. And they've already decided you're everything. Let me tell you what's really going on here on a soul level, because the surface explanation only goes so far. Some connections transcend logic. Some people are meant to find each other regardless of the circumstances that say they shouldn't. Some love stories are written by something bigger than societal expectations or age-appropriate matching or the conventional wisdom about what makes a relationship viable. Your connection with this person has a quality to it that can't be explained by compatibility checklists or relationship advice columns. There's a recognition between you that goes deeper than personality traits or shared interests or even values alignment, though you probably have all of those things too. It's the kind of recognition where you see each other. Not the personas you present to the world, but the actual humans underneath. The scared parts, the brave parts, the wounded parts, the healed parts, the still figuring it out parts. All of it. And when you're seen like that, age becomes irrelevant. Because the soul doesn't have a birth year. The essence of who you are isn't defined by how many times you've been around the sun. The love you're capable of giving and receiving isn't limited by the timeline your body has been on. This person recognizes your soul, and their soul recognizes yours. That's why they're certain. That's why they're not questioning. That's why they're ready to commit in a way that has nothing to do with how long you've been alive and everything to do with the fact that they found what they were looking for in you. But here's where you have a choice to make. You can keep treating this like a situation that needs to be figured out, analyzed, protected against. You can keep your guard up, your expectations low, your heart half invested. You can keep waiting for proof that it's safe to believe, more time, more tests, more demonstrations of commitment. Or you can recognize that you're not being asked to figure anything out. You're being asked to receive. Receive the devotion. Receive the clarity. Receive the commitment. Receive the very serious, marriage-minded love that this person is offering you. Not because you've earned it through enough doubt. Not because you've finally proved you're worthy of it. But because it's here, it's real, and the only thing required of you is to stop blocking it. I'm going to say something that might sound too spiritual for some of you and not spiritual enough for others, but I believe it's true. This relationship is an answer to something you asked for. Maybe you asked with words, in prayers, or journal entries or late-night conversations with the universe. Maybe you asked with your life, by doing the work to become someone who could sustain mature love. Maybe you asked with your heart, by staying open even after experiences that could have closed you down. However you asked, this is the answer. And answers don't always come in the packaging we expect. Sometimes they come in the form of someone younger who loves you with the seriousness of someone much older. Sometimes they come when you've stopped looking. Sometimes they come after you've convinced yourself that what you wanted isn't available to you anymore. But they come. And when they do, you have to decide if you're going to receive them or reject them because they don't match the picture you had in your mind. What's the one fear you're still holding onto about this relationship? If you're comfortable, share it in the comments. Sometimes naming it takes away its power. Let's talk about what happens if you actually let yourself believe this is real. If you believe that they're serious, you have to stop living in preparation for them to leave. You have to stop half-committing because you're protecting yourself from full disappointment. You have to stop treating every moment like it might be the last good one before reality crashes in. If you believe that they genuinely want to marry you, you have to start planning for a future that includes them. You have to make space in your life not just for a relationship, but for a partnership. You have to let them into the deep places, the places you've been protecting, the dreams you stopped voicing, the vulnerabilities you've learned to manage alone. If you believe that the age difference doesn't matter to them the way it matters to you, you have to stop apologizing for it. You have to stop over-explaining your relationship to people who didn't ask. You have to stop giving energy to opinions from people who aren't living your life. If you believe that you're worthy of this caliber of love, you have to actually receive it. You have to let yourself be cherished, pursued, chosen. You have to allow someone to show up for you consistently without waiting for the other shoe to drop. You have to accept that maybe, just maybe, you get to have this. And that's the hardest part, isn't it? Actually receiving. Because receiving requires vulnerability. It requires trust. It requires letting go of the control that comes with keeping your expectations low and your heart guarded. It requires believing that joy doesn't always come with a catch, that good things can stay good, that sometimes people mean what they say and want what they say they want. You've been hurt before. You've been disappointed before. You've learned, through painful experience, that not everyone who seems certain stays certain. That not everyone who promises forever actually means forever. But this person is not everyone else. This relationship is not your past relationships. And the fear that kept you safe in other contexts might be the very thing that sabotages what's trying to root here. There's a difference between wisdom and wound. Wisdom says, I'll stay aware and communicate my needs and maintain my boundaries while I'm building this with you. Wound says, I'll never fully trust this because if I do, you'll have the power to destroy me. One keeps you safe while keeping you open. The other keeps you safe while keeping you alone. You get to choose which voice you listen to. You get to decide if you're going to let the wounds of your past dictate the possibilities of your present. You get to determine whether this love story is about two people building something beautiful or about one person waiting for the other to confirm their worst fears about themselves. And here's the truth, they've already chosen. They've already decided. They're already all in. The uncertainty isn't coming from them. It's coming from you. And as long as you're uncertain, you're creating the instability you're afraid of. Not because they're going to leave if you don't get it together. But because love can't fully flourish when one person is always holding back, always testing, always waiting for proof that can never be sufficient because the real issue isn't evidence, it's belief. Don't go anywhere. What comes next is about how you actually step into this. So how do you move from doubt to receiving? How do you actually step into this relationship with both feet instead of keeping one ready to run? How do you let this younger person love you the way they're trying to love you, without sabotaging it with your fear? Let me give you some pathways forward that are practical, honest, and rooted in the reality of what you're actually navigating. First, have the conversation you've been avoiding. You need to sit down with this person, not in a moment of conflict, not when emotions are high, but in a quiet, grounded space, and tell them the truth. Tell them about your fear. Tell them about the doubts that keep creeping in. Tell them about the voice in your head that keeps whispering that they're going to wake up one day and regret choosing someone older. But here's the key, tell them not as an accusation, not as a test, but as a sharing. This is what I'm working through. This is where I get stuck. This is what I need from you as I learn to trust that this is real. Give them the chance to speak into your fear with their truth. Because I'm willing to bet their truth will surprise you with its depth, its clarity, its groundedness. When you keep your doubts to yourself, you create distance. When you share them vulnerably, you create intimacy. Let them help you carry the weight of your worry instead of carrying it alone and letting it build walls between you. Second, stop comparison shopping your relationship. You need to stop measuring what you have against what you think you should have, or what other couples have, or what you had in past relationships, or what you imagined your love story would look like. This is your relationship. These are your circumstances. This is your person. And it doesn't have to look like anyone else's story to be valid, beautiful, and worth committing to fully. Every time you catch yourself thinking, but if they were my age. Or, but if I were younger. Or, but other couples don't have to deal with, stop. Redirect. Come back to what actually is, not what you think should be. What actually is, a person who loves you, sees you, chooses you, and wants to build a life with you. That's not less valuable because of the years between you. It's not less real because it doesn't fit the template. It's not less lasting because people looking from the outside might have questions. Third, build your inner certainty. Your partner's certainty about you is beautiful, but it can't do the work of your own self-belief. You have to cultivate your own internal knowing that you're worthy of this love, that you have value to bring to this partnership, that your age is not a deficit. This might mean therapy. It might mean journaling. It might mean affirmations that feel silly at first but slowly reshape your internal narrative. It might mean surrounding yourself with people who reflect back to you the truth of your worthiness instead of people who project their own fears about aging onto your situation. Do the internal work. Because as long as you don't believe you deserve this, you'll unconsciously push it away, not dramatically, but in small moments of withdrawal, in patterns of self-sabotage, in walls that go up right when intimacy asks you to be most vulnerable. Fourth, focus on building, not defending. Stop spending energy defending your relationship to people who aren't invested in it. Stop trying to make everyone understand. Stop over-explaining to skeptics who weren't asking for an explanation. Instead, put that energy toward building something so solid, so rooted, so obviously working that no one's opinion could shake it. Create traditions together. Make plans together. Integrate your lives in ways that make the relationship undeniable, not to prove anything to anyone else, but to anchor it in practical reality for yourselves. When people see a couple who's genuinely thriving, the questions about age difference tend to fade into the background. Not because the difference disappeared, but because the love is so evident that it answers questions before they're asked. Fifth, give yourself permission to be all in. This might be the most important one. You need to decide, consciously, deliberately, that you're going to stop hedging. Stop protecting yourself by staying partially invested. Stop keeping escape routes mapped in your mind. Not because there's no risk. There's always risk in love. But because the risk of losing yourself to fear is greater than the risk of being hurt by trust. Make the decision to be all in. To plan for a future that includes them. To make room in your life for the fullness of partnership. To let yourself want what they're offering instead of managing your wanting to protect yourself from disappointment. This doesn't mean being reckless. It doesn't mean ignoring red flags or abandoning discernment. It means bringing your full self to the table instead of the guarded, self-protected, I'll believe it when I see more proof version of yourself. Sixth, honor the timeline of your hearts, not society's timeline. You and this person might not be on the same life stage timeline, but you are on the same heart timeline. You're both ready for committed partnership. You both know what you want. You're both clear about values, boundaries, vision for the future. That's the timeline that matters. Not when you graduated high school or when you bought your first house or how many relationships you've had before this one. Heart readiness. Soul alignment. Emotional maturity. Stop letting external markers define what's possible for you. Trust the internal knowing that you're in the right place at the right time with the right person, even if it doesn't look the way you thought it would. 7th, let them grow with you, not just catch up to you. One of your fears might be that you've already done all your growing and they still have growing to do, and that gap will eventually create distance. But here's what you're missing: growth doesn't stop. You're not done evolving just because you're older. You're not a finished product waiting for them to arrive at your level. You're both still becoming. You're both still learning. You're both going to change over the years of your life together. The age difference doesn't mean you're static while they're dynamic. It means you have different starting points for the journey you're on together. Let this be a relationship where you grow together, where your wisdom informs their development and their freshness reopens your sense of possibility. Where you teach each other. Where you learn from each other. Where you both become more than you would have been separately. The final super thanks invitation: if this message has helped you see your situation more clearly, and you want to support these deep dive conversations that honor the complexity of real love stories, the super thanks button is there as an option. I appreciate each person who makes these videos possible. Type all in if you're ready to stop protecting yourself out of receiving this love. Let's speak that commitment over you collectively. I want to leave you with this, because I think it's the piece you most need to carry forward. Age didn't stop them from recognizing what they found in you. Don't let age stop you from recognizing what you found in them. They looked at your life, all of it, the years, the history, the experiences, the ways you've been shaped by time, and saw someone they wanted to build forever with. They didn't see someone too old for the kind of love they're offering. They saw you. Specifically you. The you that exists right now, exactly as you are. And their choice wasn't careless or naive or destined to crumble under the weight of reality. Their choice was informed, intentional, and increasingly solidified with every day they spend with you. You are not a phase they're going through. You are not a detour on their way to something more age-appropriate. You are not a learning experience they'll look back on with embarrassment or regret. You are the person they want to marry. You are the future they're building toward. You are the choice they keep making, over and over, with increasing clarity and conviction. And the only thing that could prevent this love story from reaching its full potential is your refusal to believe it's possible. Your insistence on protecting yourself from a hurt that might never come by denying yourself the joy that's here right now. So here's my encouragement to you: believe them. When they say they want to marry you, believe them. When they show up consistently, receive it. When they choose you again and again, stop waiting for them to unchoose you. When they integrate you into their future plans, let yourself be part of those plans. When they love you out loud, let that love land. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to know how every potential challenge will be solved. You don't have to defend your relationship to every person who has questions about the age difference. You just have to show up. Fully. Openly. With your whole heart instead of the protected, hedged, one-foot-out version you've been offering. This person is serious about making you their spouse. They're not waiting for you to become younger or different or somehow more appropriate. They're waiting for you to stop running from what they're running toward. They're waiting for you to meet them in the certainty they've been living in while you've been doubting. They're waiting for you to believe you're worthy of the devotion they're demonstrating. They're waiting for you to say yes, not tentatively, not conditionally, but fully. And when you do, when you finally let yourself receive this love without the asterisks and exit plans, you're going to discover something beautiful. The age difference that felt like such a barrier was only ever a barrier in your mind. In the actual living of your life together, it's just part of your story. One detail among many. Not the defining feature, not the thing that determines whether this works, but simply part of the unique configuration of who you are together. You'll find rhythms that work for both of you. You'll navigate the differences with the same communication and compromise that any couple has to bring to their partnership. You'll build a life that honors both of your needs, dreams, and timelines. And years from now, when you look back on this season of doubt and fear and second-guessing, you're going to be so grateful you didn't let it win. You're going to be so glad you chose to believe. You're going to thank your past self for having the courage to receive instead of reject, to trust instead of protect, to say yes instead of, let me see more proof first. Because what's on the other side of your doubt is the marriage you've been asking for. The partnership you've been hoping for. The love you've been worthy of all along but couldn't quite believe was available to you. It's available. It's here. It's real. And it's wearing a younger face than you expected, holding a commitment more serious than you anticipated, offering a forever you almost talked yourself out of. Don't talk yourself out of it. Let this younger person make you their spouse. Let them choose you. Let them love you. Let them build a life with you that defies every limiting belief you've carried about what you're allowed to have at this point in your journey. You are allowed to have this. You are worthy of this. You are enough for this. Exactly as you are. Right now. At this age. With this history. With this life you've lived that brought you to this exact moment where someone is standing in front of you saying, I choose you. Will you choose me back? Say yes. Not with your fears. Not with your doubts. Not with your need for guarantees that no love story can ever provide. But with your heart. With your hope. With your willingness to receive what's being offered and trust that you're worth staying for. Because you are. And somewhere deep down, beneath all the doubt and fear and protective mechanisms, you know it. That knowing is the truth. Everything else is just noise. So turn down the noise. Turn toward the knowing. Turn into the love that's reaching for you. And let yourself be chosen, fully and finally, by someone who already decided you're worth everything, age, complexity, history, and all. If this message met you exactly where you needed to be met, drop one final comment. What's the first thing you're going to do differently after watching this? This is your moment. This is your love story. This is your chance to step into what's been trying to unfold for you. Don't miss it because you were too afraid to believe you could have it. Believe it. Receive it. Live it. You're exactly where you're supposed to be, with exactly who you're supposed to be with, at exactly the right time. Now step into that truth with your whole heart.